Finding a balance with screens while helping our kids learn is definitely front of mind for a lot of parents and educators these days. When I came across Salt and Lightspeed, I did a bit of a double take because I saw the words screen free and homeschooling and coding all together. And I was like, what? And so I have loved since diving into how Lauren Schroeder has developed this while homeschooling her own three kids. So, Lauren, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're helping families?
Um, Hi, I'm Lauren Schroeder. I was an engineer working at Boeing, and then I moved overseas and became a homeschool mom, and I realized I just love that so much. I have three of my own kids, and as I was planning their homeschool, I realized I was so excited to share my passion for coding with them. Like, I just love it. I wanted to build Iron Man as a kid, and I want them to have that too. And I ran into a couple problems as I was looking for coding curriculum to teach them. The first one was it seemed like there were video games that I could download on it as an app and have my phone learn to code by having the monkey get the banana or whatever, or really expensive coding robots. Um, and that wasn't really an option for us because they're really expensive. And I've seen a lot of kids just want to play with the robots and not really like go through the manual to learn coding skills, which is what I would want to do, just play with the robots anyway. So I totally get that. Um, and I really wanted them to see that coding is beautiful. It's not just watching, the Matrix, like, all those weird symbols come that are green come over the black screen. Like it's creative and it's interdisciplinary and it's thinking outside the box, and it's just like all those wonderful things about engineering. And I didn't feel like any of the things I'd seen really communicated that well. And I just had an experience like all growing up as an engineer myself. My coworkers, my bosses, my professors and students would all tell me that my faith and intelligence, all the things that they're trying to train you up in as an engineer, don't go together. I've been told that over and over again, and it was discouraging and completely wrong. Um, and actually, a lot of history's greatest minds would also say that that's totally wrong. That faith and intelligence and science go together so well. And so I wanted to communicate that to my kids as well, and that's where Salt and Lightspeed came from. Was wanting to create my own solution that kind of hit all those marks for my own kids. And then I just decided to share it on a wide scale after that.
Yeah. And I would say you have totally done that. So I hope people will kind of open a new tab and look up Salt and Lightspeed while we're talking. But let's kind of back up a little bit. So we all know like coding is important, but like what is coding? Can you give us a little bit of a baseline definition that we can work off of, especially for kids, because our kids are not programming like big things right now. They just need to learn kind of the basics. So what is coding and why should kids begin learning these skills?
Right. So coding is just telling a computer what to do. There's really nothing more. It's writing instructions, and it's writing instructions very specifically because computers don't process things the way we do. You have to like really pay attention to each step that you're giving a computer, and that's something that's important for kids to learn both in math and other scientific studies as well as coding. So they really play with each other a lot. If you gain skills in coding, it'll help all other disciplines, which I think is really helpful. But yeah, it's everything from coding smartphones to satellites to this YouTube video. And as our culture moves more and more towards technology, which it will continue to do, there will be a greater and greater demand for people who know how to interact with technology, how to give instructions to computers to create things like this. And it's such a valuable skill because of that. So much so that people think by 2031, maybe 9 out of 10 jobs will require tech skills.
Wow.
Like 9 out of 10. And that doesn't necessarily mean coding, but comfortable with technology and understanding the logic behind it and the ability to use it for your own even if it's like a nail salon, which you wouldn't think that uses technology. And it's such a great thing for parents to at least get their kids comfortable with.
Sure.
Open job markets right now. It's the easiest to find a job, and it's got one of the highest salaries of any career that you can get. I think the average for a computer scientist in the US right now is around $130,000. And of course, that's not an entry-level position, but it's a pretty good job to get, an easy job to get, and it'll serve your children well as professionals. So as a parent, that's what I'm kind of looking at. I'm not going to force my kids into it, but
but that they're equipped. And I think, we share our faith, and we want our kids to go out and do work with excellence in the world. I mean, that's something that a lot of times we, in our, home, we're making, what do we make? We made ramen today, not a fancy lunch, but like, how can you make ramen excellently today? Oh, I could add like spring onion to this, or I could add like a little bit of carrot to this, and judge it up. But like, even to the basic level of like making ramen, we want to go out and do excellent things in the world. And so whether that's making ramen or doing nails or creating, programs for the next aircraft or whatever, like that's going to be really important for them to go out with. And I love that you made it so simple there. It's just coding is just giving instructions to computer in a specific way. There's a class that I teach where we talk about, basically we talk about coding, but we talk about robots and what it looks like to give them instructions. And there's a hilarious YouTube video of this dad who's asking his kids to make him a PBJ sandwich. So they have to write out the instructions. And of course, they don't tell him to open the top of the peanut butter or put the PB on the bread, and he just rolls the jar on top of the piece of bread, and they get so frustrated. But like, those are the communication skills. So it could be, could be binary, but it could be also, verbal communication in other settings. So it's really important to know that.
And understanding that, like whether if your child doesn't work with computers at all, chances are they work with someone who does work with computers. And so the ability to understand their coworkers and be competent with the products that person makes that they're probably using, I think it's just, totally, it's going to be everywhere.
It is. So, well, speaking of everywhere, why screen free? Why is Salt Lightspeed screen free? Why did you go that route?
Right. So our family is not like intensely screen free. We just watched The Hobbit last night, which is great. But it is something that I think is we're moving away from as a culture. And I really didn't like that I didn't have options. And so it's not that for every mode of my schooling, I homeschool, so it's not that every step of my homeschooling I do screen free, but I didn't like that the only thing I really could choose was a video game. And I think options are really important so that teachers, parents can choose what is right for their family. And it's not just that, I think that's important to choose, but I also think that sometimes having this only screen option isn't actually the best way to teach this logic to kids. And so I know that seems kind of backwards, like you're teaching them about computers, don't you have to have a computer? But actually the logic that goes behind coding is something that shows up everywhere. It shows up in cooking, like you're talking about making a peanut butter jelly sandwich. It talks about, it comes up in trying something again and again until you get it right. It comes up in like following the steps of making an origami flower correctly and exactly and in order for it to be made the right way. It comes up all over. And I think that by having your child, or by taking the computer part out of it, like I said, it's instructions. Your kids are trying to write instructions to tell a computer what to do. If you take the computer out of it and your child can also step into that role where they're following the instructions, they can understand the entire process so much better and at such a deeper level that when the computer comes back into it, which it will need to eventually, they understand what the computer is actually doing. They're not just, typing in random stuff and watching, the computer just spit out things that they don't get. They understand fully the whole entire process.
Yeah.
And they're able to slow down and debug a little easier. If something goes wrong, well, they know why it went wrong because they were the ones who executed the code.
Yeah.
It just helps kids slow down too. Like I honestly tried to teach my kids coding through Scratch, which is kind of an online visual coding thing. I actually think it's great, but at least where my kids were at the time, they really just loved typing in random numbers and pushing go, and then watching their little character like spin out of control. Like they would rather watch the world burn than slow down and think through the process.
Yeah.
And so by taking it out of the screen and onto paper, I think it helps foster that slow, understanding, patient, just working through a problem, understanding all parts of it. And I think those are huge benefits that a lot of kids are missing at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, and I love that you mentioned Scratch. We've also played with that. We've done code.org, which is great, and offers a lot of good steps. But I think you're right. I wish we would have started with something like Salt Lightspeed because it kind of backs it up. It puts in that beauty piece of like, hey, how are we going to make this look this way? Or where do we see this in nature? Or why would we want to do something like this? Kind of coming back to the foundation of it all. That was really missing in some of those more tech-based tools, which, eventually they're going to get there. But the idea of backing it up and giving them something a little bit slower to begin with is really, really helpful. So I love it. Well, I would love to hear a little bit of some of the wins, perhaps, of families who are using less screens for their homeschools or in their enrichment work after attending traditional school. Figuring out kind of the ways that this could contribute to a slower environment at home. Why would we want a slower environment, Lauren? Why would that be a better thing?
I think that's just how kids learn. I mean, if you just here, I actually asked this exact question to a bunch of moms who were, teaching their kids either during homeschool or after traditional school. And some of what they said, I think, was really enlightening for me. So this lady named Kim said, we raised 3 kids without TV or video games. Again, that's more screen-free than I am personally in my family. Mad respect, though. The years were filled with so much that was good. It would take pages to write it all. We'll never regret this decision. Someone else said, while screens do offer some educational and creative benefits, I've noticed their imaginations blossoming in the most beautiful way since we've cut out screens. And Christy said there were 3 days of whining and fussing when they cut out screens. They created whole worlds from their imaginations after that, though, worlds which eventually they turned into novels. And they learned instruments and art and life skills and baking, and they played for hours. And I think reading through these responses and other responses and my own experience, kids learn through play. That's how they learn. And so by providing just play in the way that they naturally would want to pursue play, board games and, again, origami and, running around and playing. I just wrote this in my latest book. I'm really excited about it. Ice golf. They play golf on ice sheets on the sea in Greenland, and you have to write the code rules so that you know how to play. Stuff like that has kids running around the house and jumping on couches and trying not to hit the polar bears, because that cost you points in golf.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I think it just feeds into the way they naturally learn. And it also just opens them up to this cross-disciplinary. I know I mentioned this a little earlier, but I think it's so valuable. And it's something that's so missing when people just try and teach tech skills because they teach, this is how you code. But like the thought that goes into designing an actual program that's robust, that works, is the same creativity that goes into any field of engineering. Like my kids and I were just reading yesterday about a guy who was really good at origami, and he actually designed satellites. So he designed satellites that are light and can go up and unfold just like the origami that he makes at home for fun.
Yeah.
So this is the type of cross discipline that I think is being oversimplified when you just try and teach a skill completely divorced from real life and solving
Mhm.
real problems.
Yeah.
And so that's trying to lean into that a bit.
I love that. No, and we also we like our tech, but we've got some good limits there. We're in a good spot this year. And so I feel like I
Mm.
understand what you're saying with the imagination that kind of comes when there's just free time and the computer is not an option.
Mm.
What are they going to do? And yeah, there might be a little bit of pushback, or hey, can I just do this? Or how about this? But eventually they figure something out. And if you've got enough kind of raw materials, whatever that may be, pillows, mattresses,
Yeah.
random towels, the laundry that still needs to be folded, that can all turn into kind of a learning opportunity and an entertainment
Yeah.
opportunity too. So I
Yeah.
love it.
And so I'm not trying to like add more mom guilt.
Right.
Again, we just watched The Hobbit last night. I
Yeah.
don't regret a thing. It was great. It was great. But like the fact is, at the end of the day, especially since COVID, about
Mm.
78% of our kids are on the screen for at least 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
And around 60% of parents are kind of worried about that. And, I'm not, again, saying that there's a line where it's bad, different things work for different families, totally. But just, this was my personal, something I was thinking about. And again, 60% of other parents are also, thinking about this and
Mhm.
think maybe how much time my kid is on the screen is not good for our family. And so just giving more tools so that parents don't have to feel pigeonholed into, needing to get them on the screen more in order to learn this valuable skill.
Exactly. I
It
think
might
that's
be
the
what you
important
wanted
thing.
to hear, but yeah.
I think that's an important thing to know, especially for people who are just starting homeschooling. A lot of what I hear and what I see is I just need an online school. I don't want them to go to public school, but I just want an online school that will do everything. Okay, could be, but
Yeah.
are there other alternatives? And can we figure out a way that makes it feasible for your family? Completely love the idea, the sentiment. However, there are options out there, and I love that this is one of them. So, especially for something that you would immediately go, oh, computer, that's definitely going to be on the computer. This other thing we can do in a book, but no, there's an option out there that's not screen based for coding. And I love it. So, well, let's get some of these things in people's hands. What can people start using? It's saltandlightspeed.com, right?
Yeah.
And what can people start using on there today? What will they find when they hop over there?
The one I just got done with, and I'm actually really excited about, is free. So there should be less walls between just hearing about it and going and downloading it. There's no risk to that. It is How Computers Think.
Okay.
So it's geared at maybe younger kids. So I think you can use it with any grade because it's great conversation points. But my material is really for like first grade or kindergarten. I've used it with my kindergartner up to sixth grade. But this is it's kind of a prequel to the series of curriculum that I'm coming out with currently.
Okay.
And it is just getting kids thinking about, hey, what is a job that a computer does well? What is a job that humans do well? And how are they different? Because they don't overlap all the time. And just starting to think about sequential logic. And that's that peanut butter and jelly example you had, like how to really lay out steps well, how to communicate precisely, and then start to think about how computers fit into their lives. Even talking about this. So this is a unit study on Papua New Guinea, actually. So you're looking through the history, the culture, board games, current things going on in Papua New Guinea, while you're also learning about how computers think, and talking about what coding languages are.
The black hole potential of learning there is amazing to me. We love just going what? And then just learning 8,000 new things when we really only intended to learn one. So I love that. That's really cool.
Oh my goodness. I have so much fun writing them. I learned so much about all the different cultures in Papua New Guinea, and people jump over fire as like a celebration thing. I mean, I don't go to a party and be like, I just need to jump over fire right now, but they do, and it's awesome. And
People in Spain
you
do
know,
too.
it's got the most languages of any country in the world, and there's a huge problem. So this is kind of one of the examples. It's a huge problem actually because there's I think over 750, almost 800 languages in this tiny, tiny place, and so they need to talk to each other, and that's really hard. And so what they did was they actually invented a language that's kind of a marriage between all these languages and English, and that's kind of the way they speak to each other. And that's what coding is.
Yeah.
Is that computers understand ones and zeros, like that binary, you know. It's called machine code, and that's how codes or computers work. We understand human languages, and so coding is actually that language that you see coders write is actually just a marriage between the 2
Mm-hmm.
It's that halfway point so that we can translate writing code, which the computer can go the rest of the way and understand what that means.
Yeah.
And so it's just trying to like, you know, explore both at the same time and start to get into coding. And then once you get through that, you'll be primed and ready to jump right into the main curriculum.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I love it. Wow. New little door unlocked in my brain. I'm like, wow, pidgin. It's a pidgin language. I mean, just thinking about like the way that, you know, 2 cultures clash. That's really cool. I love that.
It's actually called Talk PC in like pidgin language. It's pretty cool.
Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Amazing. Well, that is so cool. And I liked that you mentioned the idea that it opens discussions. A lot of when people are starting to get started on homeschooling, I think a lot of it is this school mentality of like we're recreating school at home. Maybe, but I would challenge people to kind of step away from that and see what unfolds, see what learning conversations can look like. That as a former classroom teacher was what was missing a lot of the time because there's this kind of hyper standardized environment that you follow this not really natural format of conversation where it's just one person talking mostly at a lot of other people. And so having that conversation aspect, I think, is so huge. And that those have been the winner moments for our family, at least when we're homeschooling, is when we can sit down and have a conversation about how this math concept leads into this in real life and why this works the right way. Yeah, it's huge. Okay. Gosh, Lauren, this is amazing. I love this. Okay, well, let's chat a little bit about where people can find you because I know that I learn a lot just by following you on socials and kind of seeing what you're coming out with. So where can people find Salt and Lightspeed stuff and how can they keep in touch with you?
So the best way is to sign up for our newsletter. So if you go to saltandlightspeed.com, you can sign up for our newsletter right there. If you download the sample, you'll be on a newsletter. I'm also on Instagram and I'm getting into Facebook. I'm on Facebook and like homeschool groups a lot. I really, really love interacting with parents there. But our page looking a little bit bare. Working on it.
Good time. You're doing other important work.
Mainly keeping my children fed.
Yeah. Keep them alive.
Yeah. So I would say the newsletter is the best. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook as well, and those will be ramping up here in the next few weeks.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I hope people will go and check it out. I know that I was really impressed by it and I was just like, whoa, this is so cool. So planning on using it mostly next year with our youngest who's kind of ready for this type of thing, but really excited. And I hope that people will keep in touch, but I would love to ask you a final question that I usually ask our guests, which is what are you loving about your role in the education space? As a non-career educator, it sounds like this, I mean, you're a homeschooler, which is a educator of a different sort, but you know, not coming from the teaching world. What do you love about your role right now in the education space?
I think the wonderful thing that a lot of educators get to do is take things that they loved about their own education and amplify it, or take things that they felt like were missing and fill in those gaps with their own kids, their own students. And for me, I feel so much that, you know, being able to make this curriculum has helped my family. Just my kids understand that Christ is at the center of technology, and that engineering is beautiful, and that coding is a real problem, or tackles real world problems, and it's creative. And I've been able to see that, just be able to like express that to my kids through this curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And still, some educators who like this, that I'm excited to share it because I've seen it work for my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wish I would have had something like this as a kid.
Yeah.
Speaking of
That's
my
huge.
family, one of them came to join us.
Hi, friend. Well, it's great to see the next gen who's enjoying this.
Yes,
Do you have a
baby.
snack? That is so fun.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It's beautiful to see the example that you're setting. And I think the coolest part is seeing families kind of get to do this together. And that's what inspires me as well. So I love it. Thank you, Lauren, so much for all that you've kind of put out into the world. And for those of you watching, if nobody's told you yet today, thank you for doing what you're doing. It's important. Happy teaching.